and welcome to Coffee and a Conversation with Capital News. I'm Jacqueline Gelano, and I'm joined here today with Ashley Ramsay, who's running Unaffiliated Independent for MLA in Kelowna. Ashley, hi. I do have a question before we begin, though.
Yes.
How do you take your coffee?
I will take oat or almond milk with it. That would be amazing. Yeah, no sugar. Yeah, plain.
Well, that's perfect.
Straight up.
we can accommodate that. Let's get to it. How are those first few sips of coffee going down?
So good. Love this roastery. So good.
Yeah, Craft 42, they're just down on the rail trail. They're great, just off Clement there. So I know this is nice. You get a quick pause, drink some coffee from your campaign trail. You've been incredibly busy with that. But I want to know what motivated you to get started and throw your name in the ring, months ago. And is that motivation still what's carrying you on now as you continue forward as an unaffiliated, independent candidate?
Yeah, when I first threw my name in the hat, it was a bit of a shocker. It happened really quickly. We were just about to go on a family vacation, so we had to have a bit of a meeting. Look, is mom going to do this or not? Because I've got the 2 kids, busy husband, still running our business that we had sold. And so it was a little bit part like, uh-oh, mom's going to be out there, and so is that okay and is that safe for the family?
Yeah.
But also it came from a very deep calling to serve. And to have been called to this kind of mission that I feel. And so for me, that was the no-brainer. Like, for sure, I knew that I had the background and the experience to create change. And then, of course, having lived here for so long, it just felt so natural that I would be able to impact change here, just knowing all the back roads and the ins and outs of the community. And then my 2 kids. I have a daughter who's 16, and she's looking at what she wants to do in life. And I felt like, win or lose, I'm still showing my daughter to take on big things, and my son too, right? So, and also their future, like, where is BC headed? And we all feel it. It's not feeling great in BC right now. And if I could make a difference there, then yeah, so it's a multifaceted answer, but yeah. And carrying me now is, just continuing to hear that people are supportive and they really want a choice that's more balanced, and it's democracy that they're asking for. So it's fueling me for sure.
Yeah. So in talking about your kids, building a legacy in this area is so important, and you're thinking about the future. What are some of the key issues, facing Kelowna residents right now, particularly Kelowna-Mission, you're riding? What are the key issues, and then what are your plans to address some of those key issues?
Sure.
Yeah, for sure, affordability is number 1 on the list. Even for families that would be called typically a middle-class family, it's still a struggle. So because the tax rates are so high, and then of course with inflation, and of course all the additional taxes that we're paying, and then crime and safety. So just issues around even petty crime in really, really affluent neighborhoods, even down to inner city, right? And so we're seeing it across the board. And then of course, healthcare, the pediatric ward having shut down last week or the week before, I don't even know what day it is right now, but it's really hitting home now. And having brought children to Kelowna General Hospital, it's always been a wonderful experience, but you do feel that pressure in the room. And it is a long wait time, right? Waiting 8 hours for an IV for my daughter versus maybe going to the critical care center. So my solutions to these problems are to take firsthand experiences from the community and try to move those forward in implementation. So things like primary care, access to a doctor, that's a really big issue. Sure, we can work on that too. But are there other things that we can remove bottlenecks in town quickly? So can we set up a notification system if you have a sick child? If you don't want to take them to emergency room, could we not have a sign-in online, and then you get a buzzer to come to the hospital in 40 minutes, alleviating the pressure on the emergency room? Could we put in an IV system in for dehydration if people have the flu, right? Basic things in the critical care centers. So I think of problems in the macro and the micro, and then how can we block and tackle solve them, as opposed to like, we have to completely reform the health system. Well, let's be realistic, right? So for my families in Kelowna-Mission, lots of children under 19, right? So, and then crime and safety, of course, the NDP is taking a very different approach, right? Just catch and release, forgiveness, right? So I think we need to get stricter in these convictions. And of course, then that goes down to mental health and addictions. And so these offenders, typically they are living on the street, they're homeless, and they're petty crime, right, to get the drugs that they need. So again, prevention in front of that is the bigger issue. And climate change is big. I mean, I was an evacuee last summer. We were out of our house for about 8 weeks. And so we didn't lose our home, but we did have a fire start in our yard. And so, of course, speaking with the university, they're looking at putting in a fire mitigation lab there. So there's some actually really amazing, cool, visionary projects that are underway here in the Okanagan that I would love to get off the ground if I'm elected, because I think we actually have an unprecedented opportunity to become a state-of-the-art leader in climate change, specifically in the Okanagan, working with the Indigenous and First Nations that we have here. So yeah, that's a lot of issues, but those are sort of the top issues. Yeah. So.
But one of the things, that keeps coming up is this worry that if a person is to vote unaffiliated independent, they're not going to have that party backing them, in the ledge. And are these ideas going to come through, and will we see them put into action? So can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah. I love this question. Thank you. And I would hope that we can reach a lot of viewers with my response. So I want to say two things. The first thing is that if you're voting for a candidate in a riding that is with a party, they are going to be a seat in that party, but they will not necessarily be able to vote in the interests of their community. So that MLA will most likely need to vote along with their party. It's called towing the party line. They quite often do not have the independents to vote against, so they will look for a majority vote, okay? An independent will represent a vote for either of the needs and can argue and help negotiate policies so that it's formed in a way that is more custom fit to the needs of the riding. There's a specific riding in Parksville. Adam Walker is an independent there. He was successful in having a rezoning pushed forward through the NDP majority for his riding to allow for zoning so that they could continue to have Airbnb, which then saved their tourism business. So he was successful in that. So we are able to, we have a voice, we get question period, we get an office, we get a press secretary, we get additional resources actually. And then if there are two or more of us, we can actually form a party, which means that we can act in solidarity. Now, the other really cool thing about the situation we're in now, which is unprecedented, okay? So this isn't like typical historical independent definition of politics, is that of the 40 independents running across the province, 17 of us are from the BC United BC Liberals, which means that we are moderates. We are already hard on the left, pocketbook right. We're all fiscal conservatives, but we care, we're compassionate. And so we bring experience, intelligence, and a balanced approach to policymaking. Our votes are going to matter like never before. Because if one party wants to pass something and they need 2 more votes, guess who's gonna break that vote or make it happen, right? And so I'm pretty excited. That's another part of what fuels us as independents, because I think when we all signed up for this, we thought, well, we're just representing democracy, but now we're like, oh wow, like this is pretty awesome, right? So awesome for Kelowna-Mission, awesome for all the ridings in BC.
So in Kelowna, people have experienced the healthcare system is overwhelmed in many ways, lack of resources, lack of funding. Intertwined with that is, this crisis of substance use disorder leading to unsheltered homelessness and leading to crime, survival crime that people, they're trying to survive. But at the crux of a lot of that is, a lack of resources, a lack of funding. We don't have, enough primary care providers and all that sort of thing. So what would you do if elected to address sort of the crux of that?
Totally. So there's a couple things we can do. So there's a program called the Provincial Nominee Program. So I'm a big fan of pilot programs as well. So in my 10 years working in government boards, we've done a lot of these pilot programs. One of them was just used, a PMP pilot to express people coming into Canada that were qualified ECEs, early childhood educators. The YWCA has had a huge success rate with this. That has enabled them to now provide more care for children. You'll see that we're making a lot of progress in that industry. And so I think that's one area that we want to hone in on, and then open up the tickets. So I think there's a limit, so we need to increase the limit and then fast track. And so you reduce the bureaucracy and the red tape in the PMP program to allow qualified nurses, doctors coming in from other countries, and then the qualification requirements that BC has, let's relook at those, and let's just make sure that we don't stop them from coming in. Dr. Humer would also speak to the education system. There's a lot of problems in that in terms of limiting the number of students that are going through. So again, let's investigate that. And that this is something that, these are things that we can kind of do relatively quickly in terms of, okay, well, what is stopping that school from accepting more students? Well, let's dig into that, right? Partnering with the universities. These relationships with the local universities are so important. And that's, again, the importance of an independent candidate with those relationships, getting in there and really getting our hands dirty to figure out what's stopping this. And then the reallocation of all this money that's tied up in these, and I'm sure Dr. Hume spoke about this, but there's 74 vice president roles across the 5 health authorities in British Columbia. They're each earning, gosh, I don't even know, $250,000 each. Do we need 74 vice presidents? Okay, so now we've freed up $20 million. Where can we now redeploy that into primary care? So you're talking about people that are having issues later with, addiction and street and homelessness, but maybe they weren't even able to access a doctor to get the treatment that they needed, and then they end up in the hospital getting that care in the waiting room. So it's one thing at a time. And I'm like, as a business owner and entrepreneur, we always had to think about business in block and tackle. So what could we do quickly and easy, like now, and then what are the bigger problems? So you kind of work your way up. So that's kind of how I think we need to think about healthcare. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I have a whole policy, because I actually think that's irresponsible. Like we need to get in there and take stock and get the information. And that's another issue, is that it's going to be hard for us. We're going to have to fight to get the information, because it's all hidden. And there's a lot of NDAs that have been signed, all the roundtables, all the consulting they do, it's all under NDA. So again, that's another big thing that I want to champion, is access to information, not only from the pandemic, but this healthcare system of like, where's all the money going and how is this whole system even working? And then going in and sort of figuring out, okay, yeah, that makes sense, that doesn't, right? Yeah. Like, I think it's irresponsible for us as politicians to spew out all the policy things that we want to do. Yeah. I think it's like, we need to get in there and see. Because it's
work collaboratively with people who have their boots on the ground in the hospital, because I think it's so easy to say, this is what needs to be done, and you think it's the right thing to do, and there's other people there. And just the same as like, running a business, it's so easy from the outside to say this is what needs to be done, but someone that's involved in it. So you've been really a pillar in Kelowna for many years now. People, know your name, they know you. You're raising your family in the Kelowna-Mission area. When you're not out busy campaigning and when you're not busy working, what is it that you and your family love to do, and what keeps you guys in the area? What are your favorite things to do?
Yeah, so we're a big ski family. My husband's a coach with a big white ski club, and so in about like 10 weeks, I'm probably not going to see my husband or my son very much, because they're in the racing program there, and so that's their big passion. And my daughter's a very hard worker. She was working 2 jobs all summer, so I hardly ever see her, right? She's 16, but for fun, usually her and I will take in a hot yoga at Pranify. I'm a big hot yoga person. I've been going to Pranify sorry, I didn't get paid to plug them, but go to Pranify, they're awesome. Big hot yoga person. Addie and I love to shop. We'll just do a quick trip to the mall and grab a coffee and just, window shop and stuff. And you know what, quite frankly, we just love hanging out at home together, and we'll put on the fire and we'll watch the same movies over and over again, because nothing new is getting produced right now. So, and it was funny, the other night we watched a Christmas movie because we were just like, oh, let's just feel cozy and watch a Christmas movie. That's great. And art is a huge part of our family. So quite often Todd will be down in the basement. He's really ramping up his painting career right now while he's running the studio as well with the new owner. But lots of art going on.
And I understand your daughter's busy helping him with that as well.
Yeah. She's down at an art show this weekend. So.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
lots of
lovely.
fun. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come in today. This was a really nice conversation. And I think I learned a lot, and I hope our viewers as well. So thank you so much.
Great. Thank you.